Hi everyone, I thought I would do another walk around of my Triumph Tiger 800XC. I did one last fall just before putting the bike into storage and wasn't that happy with the audio. So I picked up a wireless mic and I'm going to take another run at it. So if some of what I say sounds familiar, you're not experiencing deja vu. I've actually done a video very similar to this one already, which I'll probably delete and replace with this one. So like that one, this is not a review. For the review of the bike, you have to go to 650thumper.blog, 650thumper.blog. So my first bike was a 650 single, so that's how I got its name. And just look for the post, long-term review 2013 Triumph Tiger 800XC. And there you'll read my thoughts on the bike, what I like, what I don't like about it. As I said, this video is going to be primarily just some of the modifications that I've made. So just in terms of context, I bought this bike the beginning of 2022 season. It had 14,500 on it. That's kilometers because we're here in Canada. It has over 61,000 kilometers now. So 3 full seasons, including a tour out to Newfoundland and back through the Maritimes. So quite a bit of experience with it now. And, you know, when I bought the bike, I knew that in terms of the street to off-road spectrum of adventure bikes, it was oriented more towards the street in terms of its geometry and the engine characteristics. And that's fine because, you know, to be honest, most of my riding is on the street. And you know, even on the long distance tours, I try to avoid the freeways, but I'm still, you know, riding asphalt on the secondary highways, you know, and when possible, getting out onto the dirt and the gravel roads. So that's fine, but it has informed some of my decisions about what I've done to the bike, basically to prepare it for off-roading, because I knew I wanted to take it off-roading, not just for my adventure tours, but even some trail riding here with some local riders. So the first thing I did was I added crash protection because I knew that the bike was going to go over. And I do love the aesthetics of the bike. I do think it's a really, really good looking bike. I get a lot of compliments on it from riders, non-riders. And I know, you know, adventure riders will say like the scratches are honor badges and that kind of thing. And that's fine, to each his own. For me, I just love the look of the bike so much. I wanted to kind of protect it as best as possible. And so I went with Outback Motortech bars. I think they're the best. I think they're the strongest. I was impressed by their videos on their website showing them dragging bikes along the gravel for like 100 meters and really relatively little damage to the bike, you know, beyond maybe the foot peg and the handlebar. The way that they're designed, as I understand it, is that they sit far enough away from the bike that even when the bike's on its side, they're still protecting these upper plastics and the muffler. As opposed to the bars like Heed that come up quite high and follow the lines of the bike, they work a little differently. These ones, yeah, they stay low. You can see they're low, and of course that helps to keep the weight low. So I've been really happy with them. The bike has gone over several times, some pretty hard falls even, like one time in particular, practicing on asphalt. Got some loud high school boys out back on the basketball court. You know, what can you do? It's a challenge to film in suburbs. There's always stuff going on, buses going by, window cleaners over here. Yeah, the screaming boys on the basketball court, you know, shirtless, having a great time. I'm not going to go tell them to be quiet, so we'll just deal. But that's the noise that you hear from time to time. So yeah, where was I? The bike is set up more for street, and I wanted to get it ready for dirt. I bought the crash bars. Oh yeah, I was going to tell about the little incident. Practicing on asphalt, practicing U-turns, and my front tire just caught the edge of a cone and the bike went over hard. Like it just slipped right out. And that was on asphalt, not on dirt. So, and no damage, no bending to the bars. and protected the bike. So I've been really happy with those. The rack on the back, also really good. Now the issue always with a bike like this with a side muffler is, do you go symmetrical or asymmetrical? I went asymmetrical. I wanted to keep the weight as close to the center line of the bike as possible. And I just pack accordingly. So I have a smaller bag on the right side here. And even when I'm using my large cases, my Touratech cases that are symmetrical, I just pack them differently to compensate for that weight. The only issue with the bars, the rack, is that they're about 1 millimeter wider than standard. So I think the standard is 18 millimeter. These are 19 with the powder coating. And what that meant for me is that my Durastand bags were hard to get on and off. So if you know that system, you know that there's a bracket that you have to lock onto the bar and you pull on a loop, and it was a real bitch to get those to lock and to get them off. I bought the bags from Dual Sport Plus in Brantford, Ontario, and they've come up with a workaround. They ship the bags with a washer that you can insert into the bracket that just opens it up enough to compensate for that extra width on the bars. And actually, you can buy also from Endurostan a spacer. The spacer is actually thinner than the washer. And what I've found is the spacer and the washer together work best. So those bags go on and off really easily now. No more fighting with them first thing in the morning or last thing at the end of a long ride. So really happy with those. I also went with Outback Motortech for the skid plate, and that's been great too. No damage to the plate, no damage to the engine. It's taken several hits. Not so much rocks embedded in the trail. Oh yeah, there's actually been a couple of times when the bike has, gone over, hit a heavy rock on the trail, but just more for rocks getting thrown up at the engine. I guess the one question mark I have about this plate is why they didn't bring it up a little higher to protect that oil filter. So that filter's still pretty vulnerable there. What I did was I added the Triumph press-on filter guard. It's aluminum, and that's solved that problem. But yeah, it's a bit curious why they didn't bring that up a little higher. Also, in terms of protection, I went with the Barkbusters handguards with the jet plastics. I just like the jet plastics. I think they suit the lines of the bike better than the Storm ones. And those guards are made specifically for this bike, this model. So it was an easy install. And I added to that these bar end weights also by Barkbusters, and they make a difference. So I found that on this right handlebar, there's a little bit of vibration coming up through. Not a lot, but there's some. I can only imagine or theorize that it's the engine. When that third cylinder fires, there's maybe a little bit of torsional rotation on the engine, and it's more noticeable here. And of course, it's the throttle hand. So yeah, these bar end weights made a significant difference. I got those from Triple Clamp in Toronto. Along the same lines, since I'm over here, I went with the Atlas throttle lock. I love it. You can see and hear, rather, it's a nice tactile, audible sound that you can really feel. It clicks on. There's just a little silicone pad down in there that presses on this, and even when it's on, you can still, roll on, roll off if needed. So that's been great. I went with the Touratech mirrors, and hi Rusty. Say hello to the internet, Rusty. He's very, very busy with that bone. That's my dog. He's a border collie. I know the double take mirrors are the popular choice right now, and they're a great mirror. I went with these, again, just thinking of the aesthetics. I know, call me vain if you want, but the double take mirrors are pretty butt ugly, although they do work very, very well. And I know practicality is everything in adventure riding, but these are fine. Like, you know, they rotate in. The only issue I've had with these, I had a set on my Beamer, and one time I went over in soft ground, and when I lifted the bike again, this part stayed in the ground, and I couldn't get it back onto the arm without damaging the socket. So I just have to keep that in mind. That was really my bad. I mean, just got to remember, if you're doing anything like that, just fold them over. What else have I done? Well, the wireless quad lock wireless charger with the vibration dampener. I love it. For years I toured with the wired phone, and it was such a pain in the butt. You know, whenever the port detects moisture, it just stops charging, and then you get, you know, a situation where you're 7% left on the battery, and the phone's starting to go dark. And when you rely on your phone for your navigation, that's stressful. And then I tried the workaround where you get a magnetic cord and you silicone the adapter into your port, and that worked okay for charging. It's not perfect though. Now you've got, you know, an adapter silicone permanently into your phone, and the other thing with that is then you can't transfer data off the phone, at least through the cord, through the port. These cords, they're only good for charging, not for data transfer. So I upgraded to this. I'm never going back. It's great. The phone stays 100% all day long. The vibration dampener protects your camera on your phone, and it's secure. I mean, I've done off-roading with it, and it's not going anywhere. I also have the adapter under the seat here, in between the battery and it, so that, you know, if by chance there's a slight draw on this, if by chance you leave the bike for like a month, it might drain your battery. So that adapter, it just shuts off the wireless charger when it detects that the battery's down at, I think, 12.5 volts. So that's just something I don't have to think about. So that's been a good addition. Since I'm up here, you can see that I did drop the forks in the triple tree. It's supposed to be 7 millimeters up, and I dropped it down. Again, this bike is it's really set up more for street. It's got a bit of a reputation for tucking in low traction zones, particularly in sand, and it's certainly done that on me a few times. So just raking it out a little bit, I hope will help stabilize that front end a little bit. It has quite a steep rake. Other big addition, the lighting. So these are the Cyclops Aurora lights, and I got those mostly just for visibility around town, because Montreal drivers are idiots, and I just wanted to be a little bit more visible. And then if I am caught out after dark in the middle of nowhere without any assisted street light or city lights, then these high beams are like 3,000 lumens, so they're pretty good. They're more than enough to light up the street ahead. So I know you can buy cheaper LEDs off of Amazon and whatnot, eBay, but if you do any reading and research, you know that when it comes to the LEDs, you kind of get what you pay for. There is a difference, and I just decided to go with Cyclops again. I had them on my Beamer, the long range lights and the headlamp, and I was happy with them. So I stayed with Cyclops on this bike. The casing is hard aluminum. They're robust. I guess could talk a little bit about the wind protection. So I've tried different things. The bike came with the touring screen, and that was okay. It's a little high for off-roading. You want a little bit of airflow over your torso. For touring with a little cheap wind deflector like this on it, it works great for like the freeway. So if I were doing a long tour like I did, you know, to Newfoundland, where I'm riding at, you know, highway speeds for most of the day, that's the setup I would go with. As I said, the touring screen was a little in my face for off-roading, so I tried the standard screen. Now, you'll read on forums that this is a terrible screen, and it does create quite a bit of buffeting. I added to it the adjustable brackets down here, and then I'm also trying this deflector on top. And I'll probably be posting a video in the coming days. I did some tests when I was swapping over from the touring screen to the standard, different configurations, like with the screen up, the deflector, and the screen down with the deflector, and the touring screen up and down with the deflector. And I think, I mean, I don't know if it'll come through on the video, but I think what I found works actually best, surprisingly, is the standard screen in the fully lowered position with the deflector on. So, you know, there's two ways to handle airflow. You're trying to get it to go up over the top of your helmet, or you're trying to get your helmet into clean air. And so I think that's the solution, to get the helmet into relatively clean air and still have a little bit of airflow over your torso. The deflector just kind of smoothens out the air as it comes off the top of the screen. So, you know, it's the best of a bad situation. I was going to try the Jivy airflow. I'd read good things about it. It was expensive. It was like $340. And before installing it, I noticed that it needed the standard brackets as part of the install. And I didn't have those because, as I said, the bike came with the touring screen. So I sent that back. And I went with this direction instead, and that's been okay. And usually, like if you're up to like 110 kilometers an hour, it's fine. It's just once you get up to 120 and above where you're going to get some buffeting. But that's pretty common. I mean, it's pretty tough task to get a screen to be good at low speed and at high speed. What else? Well, the other big upgrade was the suspension. I did that last fall. So the shock on this bike comes with a pretty soft spring. You can't really see it in there. That's actually an upgraded spring. The stock spring is 9.7. And I don't know if just like mine was fatigued or what, but the bike was sitting under sag. Static sag. It was sitting at 18% static sag. So, you know, with Marilyn on the back and fully loaded, we were well under sag. And actually, when we did the Saguenay tour last fall, I could really feel the bike wallowing around. So we tried a 13.2 when we did Newfoundland, working with Stadium Suspensions here in Beloeil, Quebec. There's their logo there. And yeah, they suggested a 13.2, given that, you know, there was going to be an extra 200 pounds going on the back, you know, between a pillion and the gear. That's a pretty tall task. I mean, to have a bike go from, I'm all of 145 pounds. So it has to be good for just when I'm riding solo. And then also with my wife and maybe 70, 80, 70 pounds, depending if I have the hard or the soft cases. It's a large gap in weight to straddle. Anyways, we tried the 13.2. We found it was good in terms of where the bike was sitting, but it was a little hard on our butts. So they swapped that out, and this is a 12.5 kilograms per millimeter, 12.5 with a 4 millimeter preload spacer in there, and that's been perfect for my weight. 12.5 kilograms per millimeter spring with a 4 millimeter preload spacer. We did a tour just this last weekend, actually, and I had actually the Touratech heavy cases on there, and even fully loaded with Marilyn on the back. We were sitting where we're supposed to be, and it's really transformed the bike. It tracks really well now over bumps, and yeah, it's sitting in terms of dynamic or rider sag and static sag where it's supposed to be. And then on the front, because we had stiffened the rear, we also stiffened the front. We put in a 0.6, so the OEM spring in the front here is 0.49. So Thierry at the stadium said that just doesn't make any sense for a bike like this. So he put in a 0.6, which is comparable to the BMW F800 GS, the Yamaha Tenere, those bikes, and that's been great too. So the bike, as I said, the bike has been transformed. If you want to put any money into your bike, put it into the suspension, because it really makes a huge difference. Since I'm down here, I guess I'll mention we got also these gaiters from Stadium Suspensions. That's just to protect the fork. If you're doing off-roading, you are going to get crap going up on the tube here and getting into your seals. So that's a little modification. The pegs, these are Fastway. So IMS don't make a peg for this bike, so this was what I went with, Fastway. Still a very, very good peg. Actually, in many ways, maybe better than the IMS. This is the Adventure peg, which is quite wide, as you can see, and that's great. I mean, if you're doing off-roading, it really helps to have that wide platform as your main input points. It comes with two sizes cleats. This is the smaller cleat because I already have a tread on my Adventure boot, so I didn't need the tall cleat. And then you've also got some modifications on this. There's a lowering system depending on which way you drive the pivot pin in. So I've got this now in the lowered position, which drops it about 1.5 centimeters. And there's also some adjustment in terms of what you put in here. In terms of the angle of the peg. So I don't know if you can see that's not perfectly flat, which is good. I wanted it like that. So it just pushes my knees a little bit into the tank and reminds me to be pigeon-toed on the bike. Otherwise, if you hit something accidentally, you can end up with what do they call it? Backwards foot syndrome or something, where your foot ends up pointing the wrong way. So yeah, it just changes the ergonomics slightly, and just, as I said, reminds me to push my knees into the bike. And then I've raised the shift lever to accommodate my big Adventure boot. And on the other side, I've got the alt rider dual level adapter there. So I've got an upper platform here for when I'm standing, and this is when I'm sitting. So that's been a nice addition. Also alt rider here. The OEM guard here wasn't big enough, and I melted the pant leg of my Carlsbad pants. I'll show you what the one on the other side looks like. It looks like that. It's kind of small. So the alt rider one just comes up a little bit higher and protects this part of the pipe up here, protects my leg rather from the pipe. What else? Well, I guess I could talk a little bit about the levers. So I decided to try shorty levers this year. That's an addition I've just recently done. And I don't know why it took me so long. I mean, when I did my course with Smart Riding Adventures, I was in like 2016, 2017. Yeah, early season 2017. They got me riding with 2 fingers. And it just dawned on me, like, why am I still riding with a full lever? So the nice thing about these, I don't know if you can see, is that there's plenty of room. Like you're not hitting your knuckle when you pull it in. And the way that I've got them set up is that the clutch disengages fairly early. So that's been nice. I know that you can get some cheaper ones. Again, you can always get cheaper ones off of Amazon. There's a little bit of play in these. I think that's even in the OEM. The other side, there's not much play at all. You can get some real cheap ones where it's really sloppy. So these are okay. These were it's a company, Terrazan, and they were about $45 US, which is like 66 with the conversion here in Canada. So that's bearable. I mean, I was looking at seriously looking at the Vortex pegs or levers rather for quite a while. They're like $200. Then you've got the Pazos at about the same, and you can go up to $400, I think, for levers. And I just wanted to just try some shorties and make sure they were gonna work for me before investing big bucks in it. So yeah, these are great. Terrazan, I think it is. I can put a link in the notes. And as you can see, there's adjustment on them. I think that covers the upper part of the bike. I mean, the only other thing I could show you under the seat here, there's my awesome player's douche rope. So I bought this Unifilter pre-filter that replaces the snorkel, and that's been a nice modification. The issue with this bike is that the air filter is under the gas tanks, so it's a bit of a process to get it out. This takes about 95% of the dirt. I've actually never had to replace the air filter on this bike. So to change this, all I got to do is remove this, remove these two, and remove these two, and this whole bracket comes off, and then I can just get a screwdriver or a little pry bar in there and get that out, wash it and re-oil it, and that's and I think that's also protecting the engine a bit more too. So that's been a nice modification. Couldn't get it in Canada, had to order it on eBay from UK. And I can't remember off the top of my head the model number, the Unifilter model number, but I'll put that also in the show notes. That's a nice mod if you have this bike. And then, since I'm here, I went with a Shirai lithium battery when the OEM one died, and that's been nice also. It's about 1/5 of the weight of the OEM, and it's got lots of cold cranking amps. I think it's got like 337, something like that, cold cranking amps. A lot, 315, more than the OEM. And you can see here, there's a little port here on it where you can't really see where the battery charger plugs in. So if you get this Shirai dedicated charger, it can run all sorts of diagnostics on it and really keep the battery healthy, resuscitate a battery that's been depleted. And you know, people ask me if the lithium is a problem. I live in Canada, and it does get quite cold here in the late season, and it hasn't been. You just have to key the bike on, let it sit for a minute or two with the lights on just to warm up the battery, and then it fires up without any issues at all. So I think that's about it. This little auxiliary port, the bike does come with wiring already installed for that. So all I had to do was buy the port and plug it in, and that's been nice because now Marilyn can plug in on the back, and I've got mine up here. Heated grips came with the bike when I bought it. That was an option, which thankfully the the first owner put on, and I love it. I love it. I don't know how people could tour like on the Tenere without any heated grips. You know, we were in Westport last weekend. It was about, I don't know, God, it was like 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, and it was raining and cold, and oh, without the heated grips, I would have died. So I think that's about it. Yeah, as I say, a good looking bike. I get a lot of compliments on this bike from riders and non-riders. Really nice sound. So even with that that OEM exhaust, it sounds pretty good. Maybe not as good as with an Acro, but pretty good. And that's part of the enjoyment of the bike, is just hearing that exhaust note and winding up the engine. So hope you got something out of this video. If you have a Triumph Tiger, hope it gave you some ideas on some mods that you could do. As I said, I don't have any affiliate links or anything like that. I'm pretty casual about my site, but I'll put a few. Well, if you have any questions, or if you want to know where I got something, just drop a comment, and I'll dig up the link from my computer and let you know where I got it. Really happy with the bike. It's a ton of fun. Hoping to keep it for several more years. Retire this time next year, and I've got big plans to go across the US and I don't know, even Europe, although I don't know if I'll be shipping the bike to Europe, but big plans to tour on this bike. It's the perfect size for me. I can lift it if I drop in the middle of nowhere. It's got plenty enough power, 2 up, even fully loaded. It's fun to ride, and it's capable off-road. It's pretty good. It's pretty good off-road. Anyways, like I said, go to 650thumper.blog for the full review, and thanks for watching. Ride safe.